Hello and welcome back. We're looking at the sheer simplicity of spirituality today. Simple. Hmm. It's disarmingly simple, and that's the way that it's supposed to be. Emphasis on disarm. The concepts that we're presented with in A Course in Miracles are presented in multiple different ways over the span of well over 1,000 pages of text, of a workbook for students, of a manual for teachers. It's a series of ideas presented over and over again in different language, and sometimes the same idea repeated in the same language, so that we get it. And the ideas by themselves are quite simple. There is no world. That idea is quite simple. God is. That is very simple. Ideas leave not their source. That is simple. So too is the idea that we're going to look at today, that we have one choice, just one choice between exactly two options. One choice, two options. Very simple. One option is real, the other option is not. One option leads us home, so to speak. The other keeps us stuck in hell, the condition of perceived separation between ourselves and our source, our creator, God. We're invited to choose the thought system of the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit is our guide for choosing. Your inner teacher is your guide for choosing. Now, you may, of course, characterize this one choice in any number of different ways. This is a classic example of form and content and how they're different. The outward form, the label that you put on this one choice, could look many different ways. You could call it the choice between the thought system of the Holy Spirit and the ego, between love or fear, between God or the ego, between light or dark, life or death, truth or illusion, self with a capital S or self with a lowercase s. It makes no difference how you label and characterize the choice. The choice itself is the same. It's one and the same. The content is exactly the same. Are we choosing love, or are we choosing fear? Are we choosing our reality as spirit, or are we choosing illusion? The illusion of separation, of individuality, of our constant labels and our round of suffering here in the world. That's the choice. The Holy Spirit, in other words, your inner teacher, is your guide for choosing. Now, as I've said in some recent videos, and this is worth saying again, you may call your inner teacher whatever you like. You may choose not to call your inner teacher anything at all. Absolutely fine. The question is, are you heeding the call, which goes out to you all of the time? It goes out to all of us. It's universal. It's constant. What we see when we see so few people actually practicing spirituality in this lifetime, we see the fact that, while all have gotten the call, very few have chosen to listen and fewer still have acted upon that and put these teachings into practical application where our experience shows us, proves to us that this material is true. If you haven't tried it, try it. And really try it and be honest with yourself. Just doing it once is not enough. It's a habit that we come to develop. That's why spirituality is referred to as spiritual practice, because our patterns of conditioning are deeply, deeply ingrained. And it takes repetition and practice and commitment to undo the ego. And it's so, so worth it. So as we go through section 2 of chapter 5 of the text, it's entitled The Voice for God. It's talking all about the Holy Spirit. And we see that the Holy Spirit calls us to remember who we are and to forget all of our drama, to remember and forget at the same time. As we set our false sense of individuality aside, as we set the ego aside, we begin to remember. We remember who we are. Awakening is nothing more than a lifting of the veil. It's an unlearning, really, truly. Many spiritual traditions, not just this course, talk about the spiritual path as an undoing or an unlearning. And it is that. We've simply interposed a barrier between ourselves and the experience of truth, of who we really are, and we're removing that barrier. That's all. The Holy Spirit is the voice for God. The Holy Spirit is the voice for God's will. And it speaks to us in many ways. This is an important point when we're talking about our inner teacher, because your inner teacher speaks to you and issues the call in what appear to be many different ways. Again, that is the form. The outward form is the myriad number of ways in which people seem to get a hit or hear the call. The call itself, the content, is universal and is always the same. Remember, the Holy Spirit, your inner teacher, is the voice for God. So, as such, the Holy Spirit does not demands nothing of you. It's not demanding. It does not command you. There are no orders. There is no subordinate. There's no dom and no sub, if you prefer. There's no hierarchy of any kind. The Holy Spirit neither commands nor demands and does not overcome, does not force, does not attempt to bludgeon or to kick the ego in the face. There's no need to kick fear in the face. It's not real in the first place. Why make an opponent out of it? It's not there. Now, you may feel it acutely in the present moment, and this is a perfect time to appeal to your inner teacher for guidance. The Holy Spirit simply reminds us. It reminds us of truth. It reminds us of God, of our reality. In this certainty, it simply reminds us patiently, lovingly, no matter how confused, deluded, or distracted we may allow ourselves to become here. The voice of the Holy Spirit is quiet and calm because it speaks for peace. Now, you may hear this voice in an audible form, in a language that you understand. You may hear that, or it may come to you in the form of something that you see that reminds you of God, of your reality. It could be something that you see while you're driving down the highway or out for a walk. It could be something that your eyes land on in written form in a book. It could be something you hear on a podcast or on YouTube, for that matter. It could be something that I'm saying right now. And it could come in the form of a feeling, an intuitive hit, a deep inner knowing where you just know that it's your inner teacher speaking to you. So, however you hear this call, you're invited to listen to it and then to do as it suggests. So, we have one choice in the present moment between exactly two options. We can listen to our inner teacher, or we can listen to the mad, raving, chaotic voice of the ego that knows nothing and is mortally afraid that you're going to set it aside, which eventually you will. Doesn't have to be today. You could view this or any spiritual themed video, read any book, listen to any podcast or audio, and you could think that the speaker is completely full of it. No problem. No problem, right? There's nothing wrong with being afraid to act on this right now. Not everyone is ready to listen to the call and act on it. However, because you are here, you are ready. I know that you are ready. Why else would you take time out of your day when you could be doing any number of different things? Honestly, even here on this one channel of YouTube, you could be watching any other content at all. And here you are. You are ready to make this choice. Your inner teacher has been speaking to you, and you have listened to the call and you have answered it. That has you here. So you are ready. So if fear momentarily pops up, no problem. Invite your inner teacher to guide you. Appeal to your inner teacher for guidance, for help, for support. Here in the practice of A Course in Miracles, we're given a very powerful and essential tool, true forgiveness. This is what we're invited to practice. So, anything that is not wholly joyous in your experience is appropriate for true forgiveness. Anything that makes you feel uneasy, anything that makes you angry or sad or makes you want to rush to judgment, because how could these people post this garbage, for example, right? Anything. So this decision between exactly two options is made on the basis of which of these two options is worth more to you. Is the peace of God worth more to you than the fleeting pleasures of the ego, which of course never last? Even the most beautiful candlelit dinner doesn't last. Your good health, should you have the good fortune to enjoy it in this lifetime, doesn't last either, even if it lasts decades. Is that eternity? No, it's not. We have a choice. And the question for us is, which option do we most value? The one that you most value is the one that you're going to choose. So if you value the peace of God, that's what you'll choose. If you value that over all else, that's what you'll choose. If you value the same old, this constant round of suffering that has drawn you back in again and again to the same old thing, suffering, samsara, egoville, psychodrama, hell, which do you value more? That's the one that you'll choose. So it's a very important question for us while we appear to be here. In truth, there's nothing to evaluate. Here in the world, we have an evaluation to make. And the Holy Spirit, your inner teacher, is your guide to making this choice. So I invite you to allow your inner teacher to guide you. Yes, just that. So, in wrapping this up here, along the way, there are many moments where we may begin to have some extraordinary doubts, right? To think, what the actual hell am I doing with this? This isn't working. Oh my God. Not having one of those. Or if you're not right now, then perhaps you have had one. And if you haven't had one yet, coming, right? We all have these moments on the path. And there are many things that we can do here. Above all else, I invite you to connect with your inner teacher, whatever you call it or whatever you call them. You may, in fact, have a committee of guides and call your inner teacher your committee if you want to. Notice I'm saying inner teacher in the singular. Call it whatever you will, right? It's all right. Appeal to it for help. And you also have the option to reach out to me or to reach out to someone else in a place of trust, right? Or someone that can help you answer your questions. If you have questions, I invite you to ask them here. Yeah. Please feel welcome to do that. And while you're at it, please feel welcome to subscribe to this channel. The subscription button's the red arrow here in the corner. I'd love to have you join us. There are moments where we're just tempted to let this go and put it down. If you're having one of those, I invite you to remember that it's the ego that's speaking to you. A voice saying, yeah, quit. This sucks. It's bullshit. That's the ego. The ego wishing to preserve its illusory self. You are invited to choose the strength of Christ. Choose the thought system of the Holy Spirit. Choose the call. Choose the voice of your inner teacher instead. You're invited to do that right now. And another thing that is highly practical is think of your spiritual practice. If you're having one of those moments where you want to give up and go back, you know deep down you can't, that going back to the way things were is not only completely unsatisfactory, it's unworthy of you. It is, isn't it? Can't go back. Take a look at where you were when you began your practice. And I invite you to take a look at the same time at where you are today. Even if you've only done your practice for a week, If you've done it for decades, you'll have a larger sample size in time. But are you more forgiving now? How are you different? Are you more loving? Are you more patient? Are you more certain of your reality as the Son of God, one with your Creator? These are important considerations because they can help inspire us to keep going, to keep forgiving the Son of God, to practice, to extend love, to extend the miracle, because you are, I promise you, a miracle worker. So go forth. And if you have questions, please feel welcome to reach out to me, and I will talk to you very soon.